as we mentioned in last week's show, which we are recording the same night as this week's show, we're recording two episodes at once. So if there's any major breaking news, especially pertaining to this episode via, college quarterbacks, 2027 draft class, Ben and I are missing that because we're recording this on Wednesday, the 24th. But what we're here to do tonight, man, is we're going to start previewing the 2027 quarterback class, and you have several quarterbacks already broken down on your YouTube channel, Pro Football Enterprises, which if people are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. You could see Pro Football Enterprises logos here. This episode is also available on audio at the Simon and Friends podcast. But if you're watching on video, thank you for being here. This is the Box Score Network NFL Draft Show. Uh, Box Score Network is our collection of podcasts, our pals that all want to do podcasts that are doing mostly NFL and then also some other stuff too, in a couple other places. But this YouTube channel is your one-stop shop for all things NFL draft, and we are getting the 2027 process started. And then we're doing this show basically 2 months early because we just couldn't wait. This is such an important quarterback class as of right now, and it feels like we always say the next class is better, next class is better. But at this time every year, we have like three quarterbacks that we're talking about as first rounders. And tonight, we're talking about two, four, six, eight, nine, and then however many you have beyond that. And normally, when we get to the 8, 9, 10 range for these previews, this is like, okay, some of these
Yeah.
guys are first rounders, some of these guys are Tay 2, some of these guys are definitely going to go back to school, but they're eligible, so we'll start talking about them.
Right.
So Knights is unique, man, because these are 8 or 9 quarterbacks that like as of right now people believe could be first round players. So just talk to me right now about like how you're feeling about this class as a whole. Are you buying into the hype? Um, and then just the general excitement for how early we're getting started on this.
I'm very excited. Just like everybody else, I am very excited. I'm a little more excited for the depth of this class because I really do kind of feel like QB 3 through 8 is better than even say what we had a couple of seasons ago where there were five guys taken in the first round, but I really
Mhm.
didn't like two or three of them
Yep.
myself. I feel like the depth is better this year. I'm not quite as high on the ceilings of the top couple or three guys
Mm.
as maybe some other people are. So if you're looking for the next Patrick Mahomes, Tom
Yeah.
Brady, Josh Allen, I'm not quite sure that I'm there on that, but that's okay. They're still really good, you know. So whatever you want to call the next tier down, but I these are still some really good quarterbacks here, and the top end is there. It just may not be quite as crisp and pristine as some people would want it to be.
That distinction is very important and it's very apt for you and me because we just got finished saying it on last week's show, but we say it almost on every show. The idea of what's the value of just like average starting level quarterback play,
Yeah.
right? So we're really excited about this quarterback class because there's a lot that we can talk about in the first round. But I'll tell you, I'm already like, how good is that guy really? At
Right.
quarterback three, is that going to be a guy that's the classic like trade back into the first round type of guy, right? We still might only be talking about two top five guys, and then the rest I would consider more like day two grades that are going to get pushed up because they're quarterbacks. I think there's three very real candidates to go back to school on the list that we're going to
Yeah.
talk about tonight. But are certainly getting hyped to be. I mean, these guys are in top tens of mock drafts right now.
Yeah.
Um, but if we really went through team by team on how many teams need a quarterback, and if we're saying these guys at least meet that line of starting level, like you said, our quarterbacks 4 through 8 actually going to have the grade that you could trade back into the first round for. And we
Right.
saw how many of those playoff teams in this year's draft were trading out of the first round. We know teams are acquiring all these extra picks. So is it not teams that are trying to get up into the top 10 to get a quarterback, to get an Arch Manning, a Dante Moore, a whoever emerges as the number three, but it's teams that don't get Arch because they have the fourth pick
Hmm.
and they're like, I'll package my second and 2/3 that I have and get to pick 26 and take Julian Sand or something like that, right? And if we actually feel like Julian Sand as QB8 in this class is worth that, as opposed to is quarterback two worth that in one of the previous two classes, That's a huge deal. That's really exciting. And then if you're thinking about this team that, let's say in the first round they took Jeremiah Smith, and now they're pairing him with a Julian Sayin, which I didn't even do the Ohio State thing on purpose, but like that's sick.
Right.
And like you're setting your quarterback up for a much better success if you're getting a real blue chip guy in the top five and not reaching on a quarterback that doesn't deserve it in the top five. Really, that's pretty exciting.
To me, it is. And listen, I've changed a little bit on this over the years, but I feel like the NFL has changed, and that's making me change. 15, 20 years ago, uh, QB3, a guy taken middle of the first round or later, I was like, man, that guy's gonna be trash. I'm generally not interested in that guy because they're reaching for that guy. They're expecting that guy to save the franchise. Well, I'll tell you, with this modern influx of offensive coordinators who have
Hmm.
kind of broken a lot of the barriers with the rigid offensive style. They're so much more willing to flex with what the guys can do. They're so much more willing to kind of half field read guys if they need to. They're so much more willing to mesh route the heck out of an offense, pick route, whatever, just to get these guys to produce something. I'm a whole lot more open now because these OCs have started to kind of figure that out, and these guys are more usable, and they're not expecting them to save the franchise. So yeah, man, if it's QB6 in the first round and I've got an OC I trust, heck yeah, let's go do it, man. Let's go try it.
And in terms of NFL trends, and this could irk you, and we'll see if I send you down a path, but teams are much more willing to draft a guy, try him out for a year, maybe two, and then just move on.
Yeah,
Taking a guy in the first round is not the math that it was before, where it was like,
right.
all right, well, this is going to be our timeline for the next 4 years, so we'll see what happens. No, man, teams are like, draft him, get him to play a few games, and they're like, nope, that didn't work, and then they'll move on. So, that could easily also be the math in terms of we'll take this guy because we'll move on from him after a year if we really, really want to.
Yeah, I agree because now listen, is there a path for some of these franchises to be more patient with some of these guys and give them time to develop? Yes, but generally speaking, I've always felt like if the guy's getting playing time and you really like your offensive coordinator and you're not seeing what you want in the first year and a half, it's probably time to go ahead and move on. Why invest 3 to 4 years in the guy, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, especially when you have jobs to secure.
Yes.
Um, let's dive in, man. Let's get started. So we're starting with Arch Manning here at the top, and I buried Arch Manning in this show last year, right? We did the show in August of last year, and we talked about maybe three names before we got to Arch because I just did not believe Arch was coming out, and that ended up proving to be true.
Mm-hmm.
But here we go. We're going to lead the show off with him. So Arch Manning of Texas, 6'4", 230-pound, redshirt junior. 2025 will be his first, or will be his second year starting after attending Isidore Newman High School in New Orleans, Louisiana. Manning was a five-star recruit on 247 Sports and the first overall player in the nation in the 2023 class. He's also obviously the next in line of the Manning family, going back to Archie Manning, the former second overall pick quarterback in the 1971 draft as his grandfather, and obviously uncles Peyton and Eli. Um, Ben, we did a video over a year ago now about the teams that he could go to and where he could find success. Um, and we just had this whole conversation about like quarterbacks and what it means and everything. But Arch Manning, we're finally here. It feels like this is the year this guy's gunning for number one. This guy's gunning for everything, trying to take college football like truly by storm this year. Had a better second half of the year last year than the way the year started. Talk to me about Arch Manning, what you're seeing on tape, what you like, what you think he could be.
So I've got 1,000 notes I can get into, but I'm just going to hit three right now to give the audience my feel on this guy. The thing that right now I see that bothers me the most about him, I still don't feel like he's very good, even at a college level, at reading defenses and kind of understanding defenses. I really don't feel like he's there yet. I feel like, matter of fact, out of a lot of these quarterbacks, he may be picking up seventh or eighth or ninth on the list. I feel like he's really not up to speed on that yet, but a lot of that is just not having played enough games yet. I really do believe that. I feel like he will get there. So I'm not worried about that, but he's just not there yet.
Hmm.
Um, on the flip side, the arm strength is there. It's not up there with the big guys in the NFL like the Mahomes or the Allens. He can't touch them. Not even a current Stafford, but um, I've got him as very good at NFL arm strength. Should be able to challenge downfield to a fair amount. So I like that. I like the way he throws the football. It's not normal necessarily, but it looks so natural to him. He just looks like he was born to sling the football. And I really like that. And then you pair the running with that. He can really hurt you with his legs. Again, never touch Lamar Jackson, but he can hurt you with his legs, and that's a big deal too. So I really like this guy. I'm wide open to drafting him number one. I do need to see him step up this year though and kind of lead the team, carry the team, be the man, and do a better job at reading defenses.
So obviously I watched the Ohio State game last year, right, when we
Mm,
did the
yeah.
initial stuff, and that was tough. But then I went back over the last week or so and I watched the Vanderbilt game and the Arkansas game, both games late in the season.
Yes.
And the jump from that week one game to that point in the year was like a whole different ball game. Um, he was confident in the pocket. He was confident with what he was looking at, right? Not the anticipation that you want to see on things like you said, um, but just like where his progression was and what he was doing. I thought he
Absolutely.
was very confident in. You just wanted to be, yeah, pick up speed a little more and maybe a little more effective against man coverage. But like I also felt like he was like finding holes in zones pretty effectively and getting the ball there. Um, and I'm with you. I actually wrote a lot of those same words. I loved how he was slinging it. He throws on target to moving receivers at the far sideline, right? Like he can
Yeah.
just make all the throws he needs to.
Hmm.
Um, I felt like he was maneuvering the pocket really well, which is a big thing for me. I mean, he's trying to scoot out of the pocket. If he didn't have a lane, he came right back to a safe spot and then moved up in the pocket. He didn't come back and just sit and wait for the sack to come. He still maneuvered out, but he did it by moving up. And the whole time he's able to keep his eyes up. He's got good drive to all areas of the field. He's got a nice deep ball. He's able to layer it a little bit, put some touch on it. I just love the way he throws the football. Low, quick release, like you said, kind of
Yes,
unique. Not a lot of that.
it is.
Um, Stafford does that, right? Stafford kind of throws it like that. Um,
Yeah.
I think if I'm envisioning all these things correctly. I've watched a lot of different guys throw the ball in the last couple of weeks. Um, just very confident and natural to him, it feels like. Like it feels like everything he's doing with confidence, especially going from watching that Ohio State game. And I joked with you during the draft process for 2026. I felt like I watched Ohio State versus Texas week one a million times because of all the prospects that were coming out of those
Hmm.
schools. But then seeing what he looked like by the end and like even just like going back in the notes, like when he was coming out, man, I wrote down like 6'4", 218 pounds is what he was listed at. Now he's very clearly 6'4", 230, maybe 230 plus. People are saying he's like 6'5", 240. Like, gosh, if he's still growing, if he gets a little bit bigger, if he can improve that arm strength like you're
Right.
talking about, and then do all the other things. And I don't watch. I'm not a sit down on Saturday and watch a college football guy, but it is so clear to me the advantage he has playing at Texas, um, because of the way that offense is run, the route concepts that are happening, the way receivers are designed to get open, and not just in the college football way of like a
Right.
screen pass or like behind the line of script or like motion
Right.
across and give him a screen on the other side, like real route concepts that are working off of each other. And that plus everything else about Manning, I'm just like he's gonna get that reading, right? He's gonna understand that. Maybe he'll never get to like I mean, I won't even say that because we didn't think Patrick Mahomes was gonna become what Patrick Mahomes was gonna become in terms of
Right.
diagnosing defenses. Um, I know the accuracy isn't great, and maybe it'll never be perfect. Maybe he's just always gonna have a little bit too much jump on the ball. Um, I wanted to ask you this, and you can react to any of that stuff I just said because I'm very high on what I saw from Arch at the end of the season. When Trevor Lawrence was coming out and he was the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, right? And that was
Yeah.
8 years in between or whatever.
Hmm.
The thing with Lawrence right now, still to this day, and has been since he's been in Jacksonville, is he will just spray throws. There will be four throws a game that are just like 2 feet too high, and it's just like that's just gonna be part of his game. And like Arch has a bit of that, right? Where just like the way that ball jumps off his hand sometimes is just too high. Was that Lawrence's thing when he was coming out? I was not doing this when Lawrence was coming. Was it just man, that arm talent is so great, and he just sprays some throws. He's got to work on that in the NFL. Or was that the spraying throws? Was that kind of a surprise once he got to the league?
No, that was a little bit of that at Clemson for sure,
Okay.
but the Clemson's team was so good you didn't notice it. Like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, they were toe to toe with Alabama and trading championships with Alabama at the
Right.
time. Nobody cared that Lawrence had a couple of off throws during the game. Like, it just didn't matter, right? Um, okay, so the accuracy thing with Manning, I really like his accuracy on most of the throws.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I think you've said that better than anybody because I've heard people talking about Manning's accuracy, and then you like watch all these throws and you're like, wow, that one looks pretty good, and that one's good, and boy, that one's over the top. And
Hmm.
but then you're right. You said it right. There's a certain handful of throws a game where you're like, what happened? And you're not real sure. I actually feel like him and Lawrence share one trait. They're a little awkward, which is odd to say because they're athletic,
Hmm.
but every once in a while it feels like maybe they're not the elbows and the knees aren't lined up.
Hmm.
And no matter how hard they've worked on it, no matter how hard they've trained, and I'm sure they do, they just don't seem like they're as muscle tied together as say,
Hmm.
you think of a good baseball player. It's like every muscle in their body is twitched and
Hmm.
toned to
Hmm.
their ear movement, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't really feel like Manning and Lawrence are quite that tightly tuned, tightly wound, to be
Hmm.
honest. So I do think that's a real thing that probably never will truly cleanse itself out of Arch Manning. And I want to go back and say I don't want to leave a bad taste in the audience's mouth. I don't feel like he's bad at reading defenses or progressing through. I just don't feel like he is where he will be at the end of the year,
Right.
and I don't feel like he's quite where some of the other quarterbacks are.
Yeah. And like you said, that comes from experience, and that comes from like a little bit of that's just the college game. Like
Right.
you're not gonna face as many schools that are gonna do like real just typical NFL rules of man-to-man defense, and then
Right.
you're not manipulating the field as much, you're not reading the field as much, you're kind of just like sitting back, what zone are they in? Okay, where are my spots gonna
Yes.
be, and wait for someone to open up, and that's he's doing that effectively. And I'm glad you're seeing the same thing as me on accuracy, because when people say he's an inaccurate quarterback, that makes me think like he has an issue with timing, he has an issue with mechanics, he has an
Right.
issue with um like just throwing the ball, and it's like none of those three things. I think just like sometimes the ball just like gets away from him,
Yeah.
and maybe there's just something to like when your arm's that good, and that's just gonna happen sometimes, and can you train that out of yourself somehow and get to the Allen Mahomes Stafford tier of arm talent plus accuracy, maybe. And if you're Trevor Lawrence and depending on your coaching staff that year, you're gonna oscillate between QB 10 and QB 14 any given year for a while. And you
Yeah.
know what? If that's the case, and Manning's athletic and Lawrence is athletic, and like you said, that like awkwardness, like when you're tall and you got long limbs, like that's gonna happen from time to time, especially when you're athletic, because then you think you could do anything. So your feet are going to move one
Yes.
way, but your arms like I can also do this. Um,
See, that's a great point because you think, and I don't mean to get too far off a tangent here. Brady's fairly tall, but
mhm,
every muscle in his body is like a finely tuned machine, but he's
because he
not
has to,
athletic,
right? Because he has
right?
to. He needs
Yes,
to cut not cut every corner, but like dot every I and cross every T.
right.
But when you're as athletic and talented as Lawrence and Manning, you can kind of be like, I can do this. I can get away with that.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, and maybe their body, maybe their muscles just can't get to that finely precisioned level, but we'll see.
The difference, like, do you keep lifting weights or do you start doing yoga in your 30s, right?
Right.
Do you start a Pilates class, or are you just trying to lift heavy every day?
Yes.
Um, Mahomes doing all the like core work, right? To get
Hmm.
everything to like move and utilize those parts of his body, right? All right. We're gonna talk about Arch so much over the over the next 9 months. I'm sure we could keep going, but anything else really big you want to say? Like I mean, you said totally open to him becoming a first overall pick. I certainly think that if the draft were right now, would you take him in the first round?
Yes, I would, and I'm gonna stir the pot a little bit here. All these analysts and all these NFL people that say Dante Moore is first right now, they're probably right. Matter of fact, I think they are right. But you come draft day and you're going to tell me that you're not going to take a Manning. I'm not believing that at all, man. These
Yeah.
these people, you just we're human, man. When you hear the word Manning, you can't pass him up. If he looks at all close to Dante Moore this year, Manning's the guy that's going to go first. Okay.
Yeah, there's no shot. And like, could you do that to your fans? Like, be the ones like even Eli was, was the
Right.
first pick in history, and like it's Eli, right? But like, I'm gonna pass on Eli. Like, I'm not gonna do. Yeah, no, heck no.